I had originally conceived of the Cultists while I was writing some very serious Lovecraftian stories for the world of Journey to the Tree of Sorrows that I was developing with David LaRocca. And of course, as you're writing serious stories and serious material, of course a bunch of different jokes come to you. And so I kept a notebook with me where I would just write down all the different jokes or gags that I thought of, or David and I bounced off of each other as we were working on the serious Journey material. And as I was working on the darker, more serious things, of course, my mind did return to the lighter, more comical things from time to time. And there were several days at different bars where I would just sit down and with my notebook and with my computer and type up some of the scenes that would become some of the early drafts of the scripts for the Cultists. And it was from those just scenes put together from those notes that this whole series kind of sprang. You can see up above the table in the kitchen the sign for Avondale Brewing, and that's a local brewery here in Birmingham, and so that's a neat little item that ties the location to Birmingham, Alabama. This early scene where Mom is talking about what god he worships, that was actually from a documentary I was watching about an artist who was involved in some elements of Satanism, and he said that as a kid his parents asked him what god he worshipped. And of course he was talking about then the devil, but I thought that was such an interesting line. Concern about what god you worship. But I could take that and I could put it in this comedic Lovecraftian setting where it's not serious at all, and that was kind of the genesis of that idea. Of course, the character of Mike is supposed to be kind of a modern-day Charles Dexter Ward with his interest in necromancy. And there is a little bit of a meta Easter egg here, because if you look closely at the table in front of Mike, one of the books that he has is the complete works of H.P. Lovecraft. If you look at the pen that Mike is wearing, that pen was one of the symbols that was designed for Journey to the Tree of Sorrows, and it's called the Seal of Yog-Sothoth. If you look up the Seal of Yog-Sothoth on YouTube, you will find what I wrote about the Seal of Yog-Sothoth as part of the Encyclopedia Magica in the context of a very serious Lovecraftian world. Rebecca Yeager, who plays Mom here, is I believe the only actress who didn't audition. As we were formulating this and had the character of Mom, Brennan, the director of photography, said, "I know exactly who should play that role. She's a professor at Birmingham Southern." He called her up, she said, "Sure, I'll do it," and then she showed up on set, and of course, she's just fantastic. If you think back on this conversation after you've seen Mike's friends, Dave and Rob, and you think about Mom saying, "Aren't they going to a football game?" Of course, Rob and Dave are not the kinds of people who are going to be going to the football game on a Friday night. This house that we're in, by the way, is an Airbnb that we rented in Birmingham. This house was one of the very last locations that we were able to find. Believe it or not, it's very difficult to come up with a house that you can shoot in. And for a lot of different reasons, we weren't able to use their house to shoot the show in. And we can't use my house because if you've seen my house, it doesn't exactly look like a typical suburban house with all the renovations that I've done, so it was out. We went on Airbnb, and of course there were a lot that were out of our price range, but we finally found one where the owner was like, "Yeah, sure, you can shoot here." And so we rented this Airbnb in Birmingham, and that became Mike's house. So if you wanted to, you could actually rent Mike's bedroom. This discussion about Mike acquiring knowledge and giving his brain to Yog-Sothoth is a parody of some of the material for the cult of Yog-Sothoth that had been written for Journey to the Tree of Sorrows. A lot of this is self-parody. I hope that everyone appreciates the altar of Yog-Sothoth, which not only has the seal of Yog-Sothoth on it so it matches Mike's pen, but also Yog-Sothoth orbs. He's using these Christmas decorations to represent the orbs of Yog-Sothoth. I hope everyone appreciates that. We had written a scene which wasn't used where Mike was actually hanging those, and they were supposed to be actually his grandmother's Christmas ornaments, and his mom was upset about that. The idea of sacrificing a Care Bear with a steak knife was something that was in some of my very earliest notes, so that's something that's been around for a long time. We made that altar down in my workshop, and cutting open that bear and shoving that steak knife through it, that was a lot of fun. That was a fun prop to make. I've been asked several times what that is in that jar, and that's just fog from a fog machine. I had one on the other side of the bed, and I think I was laying down there on the other side of the bed to stay out of the shot, and in between takes, I would refill that jar with fog from the fog machine, and we could only do 1 or 2 takes with that fog because it would start to dissipate in the jar and then it wouldn't look good anymore, so I was always having to refill it between takes. This scene with Cultist lawn care was written in kind of late because originally, as the scripts were written, when Mike goes and tries to get a job, he gets a job at some place like Walmart and of course scaring customers as he's doing who knows what in the store. But those are the kinds of scenes that are very difficult to do because although I know a lot of our fans want to see more of the cultists interacting with the outside world, taking the film crew in and shooting something in a store like that, very difficult to do, and we weren't able to do it for this season, so we rewrote it as Cultist Lawn Care. And shooting this scene was really funny because we were getting a lot of strange stares from the neighbors. And this car that goes by was also really funny because they slowed down to look at Mike and did this slow roll as they passed him trying to figure out what was going on. That name tag she's putting on the nameless mist there says Matilda. I'm not sure if you can see it quite as well as you might. But this is a great way to introduce Bella, the sister, who was played by Ava Conley. And the little sister was a role that we had written into the script and we really liked and enjoyed, but we were afraid that it was going to be too difficult to find a young actress to play Bella. And so basically we cut all of that out of our scripts. But before we went to auditions, we decided we might as well put it out there. So we put together some sides for people to read for Bella. Oh, this jar cracking sound, this was really fun to get. Actually, the Foley turns out to be one of my favorite things. During post-production, Brennan came over to my house, and we were breaking jars in my living room, capturing it with different microphones at different distances. We broke a lot of jars on my living room floor to get that sound. But anyway, regarding the Bella auditions, we ended up with all of this fantastic talent who showed up to read for Bella. And there were a number of different actresses we could have chosen, but Ava really stood out. We thought she would be great for the role, and then we went and wrote all of those scenes back into the scripts to add Bella back in, and of course it just worked fantastic. And Ava is a joy to have on set. Everybody loves it when Ava shows up. She's wonderful to work with. That oompa, 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 that was all ad-libbed by Peter, the actor who plays Mike. We didn't have anything written in the script for that other than strange chanting, so that's what Peter came up with for that and his addition to the story. If you've enjoyed this commentary, please watch Season 1 here on the YouTube channel now, and also subscribe to stay with us because Season 2 is coming soon.